I think we're ready here. We're going to start with our medal moment. This has been a dream of Jennifer Edwards for a long, long time, to get some strong women here at this event and really talk about the history and the future of running and track and field. It's my honor to introduce our four ladies here. We're going to start off with the one and only Joan Benoit Samuelson, 1984 Olympic champ in the marathon, Chicago and Boston Marathon champ, holding the fastest American times for more than 25 years after both of those races. Joan, welcome to the event. Let's start off with the beginnings of Joan Benoit Samuelson and running. What got you into running back in the day?
Growing up with three brothers, survival of the fittest. Two older brothers and one younger brother, and they were always chasing me because I'd done something to tease or taunt them, and I just needed to run as fast as I could to get away from them.
So you were basically bullied into running a little
right.
bit. Okay. But you had to like it from the get-go. I mean, you were successful from the get-go pretty much, or was it a learning process?
Well, I always did well in the presidential fitness tests way back in the 60s. I'm really dating myself to all these young, inspiring women. But then I broke my leg my sophomore year in high school. I had a real passion for skiing, and I wanted to make it to the Olympics in ski racing. And then, you know what they say, no guts, no glory. I started to run as a form of rehab, and the next year in the Gates, I just didn't have it. So running became more of a passion for me, and it was much more accessible and affordable at that point.
So obviously looking at a pinnacle moment here in the Northeast, that famous day in Boston, wearing the Red Sox cap, coming down, winning the Boston Marathon. How was that moment for you? I mean, is that still something that is like, seems like yesterday, or is it, you know, seems like as far long ago as it was? Is it still something that you think about, that pinnacle moment, winning Boston Marathon that year?
Well, I think it seems like it was in somebody else's life. You know, I've never looked at a marathon course before I've run the actual course, and I didn't really know where I was going. I always ran the Boys and Girls Club Patriots Day 5-mile road race in Portland, Maine. And so I just decided I wanted to run a marathon. And the great Patty Lyons Catalano Dillon was the woman to beat. And I remember passing her and then saying to the guy running next to me, I need to save something for Heartbreak Hill. Where is it? And he looked at me like I was half crazy and said, lady, you just passed them. So then it was all downhill to the finish line, except for the little blip by Fenway Park and the Simcoe station. So.
Right. So fast forward a little bit to the 1984 Olympics. I mean, did you ever imagine as a young lady being able to represent the United States in the very first women's marathon at the Olympics, much less winning it?
No, I really didn't. I mean, that wasn't even an event to shoot for when I was growing up. The longest distance was the 1,500 meters, and for the longest time it was the 800 meters. So when they added the marathon, I mean, I was running marathons, but I didn't think I'd have the opportunity to run one in the Olympics. And then thanks to the woman who preceded us in the sport, it became a reality. And, you know, it was on home soil, the first women's Olympic marathon, and the great late Greta Weitz was the odds-on favorite, and I was the underdog, so it's always easier to go into an event as the underdog, so I didn't feel the pressure that she felt. And I was very concerned about Ingrid Christensen, her teammate as well, who'd actually had the fastest time at that point. And I just ran and didn't know where I was going, and it all worked out.
Seems pretty simple, huh? So one of the great stats, and we'll go on to our next lady here. 1985 Chicago Marathon. You win. You break the American record. It stands for something like 20 years, and lo and behold, who breaks it? Dina Castor, ladies and gentlemen, our next guest here. 2004 bronze medalist in the marathon, 8-time national champ in cross country, so she had a lot of range. Dina, talk to us a little bit about,
I need to preface this a little bit.
Sure.
Because Dina and I didn't really know each other, but I saw her at a press conference in New York City, and I told the press they were looking at the next American record holder in the marathon.
Wow.
And sure enough, she didn't disappoint.
Hey, that's prediction right there. So, Dina, we've known each other for a long time, and I just think it's been amazing that all of the women up here have all had moments where they've inspired a generation of athletes, and that's what it's kind of all about. And you certainly did that. I mean, starting in the early 2000s, you just started bursting out on the scene. Again, winning the bronze medal in 2004. Talk us through that moment of winning that medal.
Oh, it was a long time coming, just because I had started running at the age of 11 years old, so it made me so excited to see the young runners out here today, the high school runners that are about ready to take the track, because running gave me so much in those early years, and you chip away at it, and you chip away at it, and great things come of it. And Falmouth is known as a family affair, and as I look around at just remembering at 11 years old, watching Joan come into the Coliseum, and being able to see where the sport is now. It's so amazing to be sitting in my living room and watching Molly earn the next American medal, and Joan and I texting back and forth how we're cheering for her, and now she's going to be a part of that cheering squad as the next generation comes through, to be running alongside Tatiana as she storms to another World Marathon major victory. And I jokingly asked her if she brought her 20 Paralympic medals with her, because that would be some heavy baggage, because we were just charged with bringing one.
I was having a hard time trying to make a list of all the medals that she's won.
Absolutely. So I just think we're all part of this, and there's no other sport in the world that can do that can bring so many walks of life, of motivation, of ability levels, and bring them all together to celebrate what really is an amazing family of road running.
And you starting off in high school. I mean, you made every year you made the Foot Locker finals, which for most people don't know, it's the national championships for cross country in high school. Did you imagine yourself, running this, thinking, you know what, I'm going to run in college, I'm going to run professional, I'm going to do all these things? Did you have that desire, or was it you just taking one step at a time?
One step at a time. I think that's life in a nutshell. That if you were to project yourself so many years beyond, it seems daunting and unrealistic. But to just think of yourself in the next moment, you put together those little gains and they become great gains. And so it's a privilege to be in a sport that teaches us that, because you learn that in sport and then you bring that mindset into anything else in life, where something seems unattainable and you just chip away at that goal, and all of a sudden you're sitting in your wildest dreams.
Now, I talked about you breaking Joni's American record in the marathon. I mean, you guys obviously have a strong connection. What was that like? I mean, was it kind of like, you were happy and sad and at the same time, or was it just pure glee that, oh my gosh, I'd finally done this?
Yeah, when you aspire to push your limits, you look at the best, and Joan was that for me for so many years, and it was right when I crossed that finish line at the London Marathon, bettering her American record, that moments later I got a phone call on my cell phone from Joan, congratulating me. So earlier this year, Kira D'Amato, who will be running the 7-mile race tomorrow, she broke my American record earlier this year, so I made it a point to do the same thing, to make sure she got that phone call of congratulations, the passing of the torch.
Oh, that's so great. But, your career didn't necessarily end in the prime, as some would say, in their 20s and everything. You ended up coming back in 2015 in Chicago and setting the Masters record. Talk about that. I mean, what kept you going into that Masters realm at that kind of level?
Yeah, when I was younger, I never thought I'd be running at the old age of 40, and now I'm approaching 50 and still at it, running the Berlin Marathon next month, and really it's a lifestyle. You get into this sport because it challenges you to be your best, not necessarily getting faster now, but I still feel like I'm getting better. And so Joan was also a great role model in that, in showing that you can stay in this sport for a lifetime and continue to challenge yourself with newer goals so that you can be at your prime no matter what your age.
Well, we're very, very happy that you're still in the sport. Dina Casper, folks. Our next guest, like I mentioned before, we would spend the entire evening wrapping off every single medal that you've won. But I mean, multiple medals in Rio, London, Athens, Beijing, Tokyo. You won Boston, you won Chicago, you won New York. I mean, there was a time right around 2013, 2014, you just stormed onto the scene in marathoning and track and field. Tell us about that. How did that process happen? How did you get to that point where all of a sudden you just started dominating the sport, Tatiana?
It was well, thank you for the wonderful introduction. It was a process, you know, definitely didn't happen overnight. I really just started sports as a rehab. I was adopted at age 6, and I was really sick, very anemic, and my parents put me in a local sports program, and I tried everything: ice hockey, downhill skiing, wheelchair basketball, and finally wheelchair racing, and I loved it. I was 7 years old, and I didn't know if it was the need for speed, but I just took to it, and I wanted to get better and better, and you know, watching road races come through my neighborhood and seeing the games on TV, you know, I knew that I wanted to be there. And in 2004, I made the team. I was the youngest person at 14 and a half, 15 years old to make it. And my goal was just to make the team and maybe potentially a medal. And I won 2 silvers there. And each games I wanted to add an event and challenge myself. I think it's fun adding an event, but I'm very different in that way. And it's been such a great journey, and such a great community too, especially in marathons. It's a really special community, and the allyship and the way we can talk about our sport and really grow this sport too. It's been just amazing from where we came from to where we are now, and I love it. And I think that's why I just keep going, and you know, I love pushing the sport forward, and it's been amazing.
We'll talk about that a little bit, how much you've been able to inspire the current athletes that are out there right now. I was talking to the young lady, Maddie Wilson, earlier this afternoon, and it just seemed like there was that gleam in the eye of just wanting to take on the world. And you have to look back at the fact that you did take on and destroy the world back, you know, starting about 10 years ago. Talk about that inspiring these young athletes and what that means to you.
Yeah, you know, when I was, you know, really young, I thought, okay, if I can be like the Williams sisters and dominate, you know, the world in athletics, then I have a voice, right? And I wanted to be the voice for these younger generations. And we're hosting the games in 2028 in LA, in America. So Maddie is 13 right now, and I have been mentoring her since, I don't know, she was about, what, 5? And she might make it to the games in LA in a couple of years, and she's going to be old enough soon, you know, to be racing a marathon. And I feel so good seeing the younger generation come up, especially women, because that's my fear is losing women in road racing and in track as well.
Well, I think because of your success, you've inspired other women to come up into the sport. I mean, there was probably, to all due respect, there was at one point you dominated by, you know, half a mile. The next thing you know, there just started to be a lot more women really coming up to your level. It was almost kind of like when you think of Pete Sampras or Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods was the first of his kind, and the next thing you know, all of these golfers were fit and hitting like he was hitting. You obviously had to inspire a lot of these amazing women that are coming up in the sport right now.
Well, thank you for saying that. I love being a role model, but it's also keeping me very fit and excited for the future generation, because now I have to step up my game, you know, and having 20 Paralympic medals is amazing, and I'm 2 away from being the
I just love how she rolled it at 20 Olympic medals. She just rolled over that. But it is amazing.
Thank you, and I love setting goals and seeing how high I can get myself, and then having others, you know, chase and come after, and having that sport grow, because that's what it's all about. When I leave, I want to leave a legacy for the younger people, so they don't have to fight what we're fighting for right now. That they can just have everything, and it's happening, and it's so exciting.
Well, we know you will continue to inspire the Maddie Wilsons out there, and then she will take over the reign at some point in time. Tatiana McFadden,
Thank
folks.
you.
And finally, our 4-time NCAA champ, her second marathon ever was the 2020 Olympic trials, and that was not good enough for her. It was your first one. Her first one. The second one was then the Olympics.
No, like right London in between.
Run London in between, but then her third marathon ever, she goes out and gets the bronze medal in the Olympics. Give it up, Molly Seidel. I always got to pronounce that right. So Molly, we've talked to these three amazing women that have come before you, generations that have come before you. Talk about how they've inspired you.
My entire running career is because of these guys. Like, it's really funny to be able to stand next to three women who I have looked up to enormously, and to feel like, wow, like, it's kind of amazing to like be watching Dina like in the Olympics when I was in 4th grade and being like, oh yeah, I want to run. And now it's like this is still mind-blowing for me. It's pretty cool. And I think like that's what I'm hoping, kind of like what Tatiana said, is that there's going to be some kid here that's seeing this and being like, man, if she can win a bronze in the Olympics, like, I can do that. And then hopefully 10 years from now, that'll be them.
Well, I think that's what's great. Like when I started off with the idea that a lot of people could say that each time each of you started to dominate the world on the American stage, there was almost kind of a generation kind of coming up saying, wait a minute, I could do that. If they could do that, I could do that. And so talk about that. Do you feel that kind of responsibility in the modern sport now to be that role model for those for young ladies coming up?
Well, I think it's really cool. So I ran with Kira Diamato this morning, and we were talking about it, about how it's this cool thing about when one person does something really big, whether it's winning a medal, whether it's breaking the American record, it shows the people around like, hey, that's an achievable goal. And then everybody, it raises the bar. And so I think that's what's really cool about women's sport in general. It's a lot of us are out here, we're supporting each other, we're friends. Like, I love Kira Diamato, I love Sarah Hall, I love running with these women, and every time one of us achieves something, we're texting each other and being like, hey, that's incredible, like, let's make it better. And so I feel like we're really raising each other up, and it's just making American distance running that much better.
Well, a big theme not only of the 50th A6 Falmouth Road Race, but it's also the 50th anniversary of Title IX. Talk about what that means to you as a female athlete.
I mean, it's really cool to be able to have those opportunities and know that women's sport is just as important as men's sport, and be able to have that messaging to be able to go out and achieve really big things. Because I think like every girl should know that, is like, we're on the same playing field, we're doing just as impressive of things, and we deserve those opportunities.
Now, do you feel, absolutely, do you feel a bit of pressure being that representative, or being one of, one of the representatives of the next generation and inspiring the next generation?
Yeah.
Do you feel pressure for that?
Yeah, I think a little bit. I think with it comes like, there's the kind of, it's nice sometimes going into races being the underdog, of kind of like what Joni said, is like, it's nice not having that pressure, but it's also really cool now knowing that there's that responsibility and that expectation, because it feels like it, I struggle with self-confidence a lot, and sometimes I have to kind of remind myself that I have a bronze medal. And so it's like being able to be like, hey, like, I deserve to be here, like, I deserve this. I think it helps get my head in the game of like, hey, like, I can go after big things too.
So do you often, do you go and do talks and take the medal with you and show, what's the look on young girls, on their face when they see you?
Are you trying to make fun of me that I'm the only one who did not bring my medal? Because no one told me to bring the medal? Okay, well, you
can't bring it. You have to have a whole separate suitcase for you, Tatiana.
Medals. No, it's really fun. Actually, coming back from Tokyo last year, it was super fun because I just had it like in the pocket of my backpack. And because we had to wear all of our Team USA gear coming back, people would see us in the airport. I'm going through the Denver airport, and they're like, oh my gosh, did you just run in the Olympics? Or were you at the Olympics? I'm like, yeah. They're like, how'd it go? I'm like, I won a medal. They're like,
as a matter of
oh
fact.
my gosh. They're like, can I see it? And I'm just like tossing it out to people. I'm amazed it did not get stolen or dented or dropped or something. But it's really fun getting to show that, because I think of like how I would have felt as a kid. Like, if I'd gotten to hold an Olympic medal, like, that's super fun. And then like, I'm hoping some kids holding it and being like, hey, I want one of these.
Well, it's amazing the inspiration that all four of you ladies have brought upon the sport. I've known most of you for a long time. I'm inspired. I hope you guys are all inspired. We will see Joni and Tatiana and Molly running tomorrow morning. Dina will be at the finish line with NBCU doing the broadcast. I'll be excited to be near her as well. Meanwhile, let's give a big round of applause for our four women here. We're glad you guys came out here, and we hope for more inspiration, and we hope that the next generation is out there. And we're going to get on to our Falmouth Track Festival, sponsored by ASICS. Thank you, folks.